The massive conference hall echoed with an uncomfortable silence as Sung Kim stood at the center, his posture rigid but calm. Around him, the alien delegates from the Orion Collective watched with a mixture of curiosity and mild contempt. Their crystalline bodies shifted and glimmered under the artificial lighting, each movement precise and calculated. Yuna Park stood slightly behind Sung, her dark eyes scanning the room with a careful neutrality that betrayed nothing of her inner thoughts. She knew this moment was crucial, humanity's first true interstellar diplomatic encounter. Zealer, the lead Orion diplomat, stepped forward. His translucent form seemed to pulse with an internal energy, tendrils of light moving beneath his surface. When he spoke, the translation device rendered his words with a cold, mechanical precision. "Humans," he began, "we have observed your species for several solar cycles. Your technological progress is primitive. Yet, we are willing to offer a comprehensive integration protocol." Sung didn't move. He didn't blink. His response was measured, each word chosen with surgical precision. "Integration implies we have a choice," he said quietly. "We do not require your assessment of our capabilities." The other alien representatives began to murmur. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others seemed amused by what they perceived as human arrogance. Yuna knew they were making a critical mistake. They saw humanity as weak, fractured, unable to unite. What they didn't understand was the deep reservoir of human resilience, the capacity for rapid adaptation that had defined their species' survival throughout history. Zealer continued, his tone dripping with condescension. "Your planetary resources are limited. Your technological infrastructure is fragmented. The Orion Collective can provide stability, protection, advanced systems beyond your current comprehension." Sung allowed a slight smile. Not a warm smile. Not a friendly smile. The kind of smile that suggested something dangerous was brewing just beneath the surface. "We appreciate your offer," he responded, each word deliberate. "But humanity does not require external management." The conference hall temperature seemed to drop. The alien delegates felt something shift, a subtle tension that hadn't been present moments before. Yuna observed the interactions, her hand subtly touching a small communication device hidden within her sleeve. Unbeknownst to the Orion Collective, complex systems were already being activated. Quantum communication networks were coming online. Defensive protocols were being prepared. Zealer seemed oblivious to the underlying currents. He continued his presentation, displaying holographic representations of proposed galactic integration, showing how humans would be efficiently incorporated into the Orion Collective's vast administrative structure. What the aliens didn't realize was that every single projection, every piece of data they were sharing, was being analyzed by human intelligence systems far more advanced than they could comprehend. Sung listened. Watched. Waited. "Do you understand the magnitude of our offer?" Zealer pressed, his crystalline form pulsing with what might have been interpreted as excitement. "Perfectly," Sung responded. In that moment, something changed. The aliens felt at first a subtle shift in atmospheric pressure, a strange vibration that seemed to pass through the conference hall like an electrical current. Yuna's eyes met Sung's. A microsecond of perfect understanding passed between them. The first encounter was not going as the Orion Collective had anticipated. Not at all. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage. And they were nothing like anyone expected. The diplomatic meeting continued, but underneath the calm surface, something monumental was beginning. A confrontation that would reshape galactic politics forever had just been set in motion, with neither side fully understanding the implications of what was about to unfold. Zealer and his fellow delegates continued their presentation, completely unaware that they were walking into a strategic trap decades in the making. Humanity's true nature was about to be revealed. And it would be nothing short of revolutionary. In the weeks following the initial diplomatic encounter, the Orion Collective began implementing their strategy of subtle economic pressure. They believed they could break human resolve through carefully calculated economic sanctions, targeting Earth's fledgling colonial outposts in the outer solar system. Sung Kim watched the first wave of restrictions roll in from a secure monitoring station deep within Earth's defense complex. Beside him, Una Park analyzed complex data streams, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces with practiced precision. "They think we'll bend," Una muttered, her voice low and controlled. The first targets were the mining colonies on Europa and Titan. Communication networks suddenly found themselves throttled. Supply lines were mysteriously interrupted. Economic transactions became increasingly difficult, designed to create maximum frustration with minimal direct confrontation. What the Orion Collective didn't understand was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Every potential scenario had been wargamed, every possible economic pressure point had been studied and prepared for. In the small colony settlements, workers and administrators remained surprisingly calm. They had been trained for precisely this type of scenario. Each disruption was met with immediate, calculated responses. When communication channels were restricted, alternative networks emerged. When supply lines were cut, local production ramped up with remarkable speed. Sung reviewed the initial reports. Each data point told a story of resilience. Where other species might have panicked, humans adapted. They didn't just survive, they found opportunities within the challenges. The Orion Collective's intelligence reports continued to paint a picture of a species they believed was vulnerable. They saw fragmentation, economic strain, potential internal conflict. What they couldn't see was the underlying unity, the complex network of human cooperation that was already neutralizing their attacks. On Europa, a mining station director named Jinho Park received the first set of economic restrictions. Instead of sending panicked messages back to Earth, he immediately activated contingency protocols. Local 3D printing facilities began producing critical replacement parts. Communication teams established encrypted backup networks. Meanwhile, in the research stations orbiting Mars, scientists like Dr. Elena Rodriguez were already developing technological countermeasures. Advanced quantum communication systems were being tested, systems that could bypass traditional communication restrictions with ease. The Orion Collective believed they were applying pressure. In reality, they were providing humanity with a live-fire training exercise. Una's monitoring systems began picking up the first signs of their deeper strategy. The economic sanctions were just the surface. Hidden within the restrictions were subtle attempts to gather intelligence, to probe human defensive capabilities. "They're testing us," she told Sung, pointing to a complex data visualization. "Seeing how we respond to different pressure points." Sung nodded. Everything was proceeding exactly as they had anticipated. Back on the colonial outposts, workers continued their daily operations. Miners on Europa continued extracting resources. Researchers on Mars continued their experiments. To an outside observer, nothing seemed unusual. But beneath the calm surface, an entire species was preparing. The Orion Collective's intelligence reports continued to stream in, painting a picture of what they believed was a species on the brink of economic collapse. They saw weakness where humanity was building strength. What they didn't realize was that every single restriction, every economic maneuver, was being carefully studied. Each attack was becoming a learning opportunity. Humanity wasn't just surviving, they were evolving. Sung looked at Una. A small, dangerous smile crossed his face. The real response was coming. And the Orion Collective had no idea what was about to hit them. Humanity had been underestimated. And that was about to become a fatal mistake. The counteraction began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Sung Kim watched the first waves of human response unfold with calculated precision. Nanotechnological swarms developed in secret laboratories began their silent deployment across key strategic points in the solar system. Una Park monitored the systems, her fingers moving across holographic displays with surgical accuracy. Each movement was deliberate, each command a carefully orchestrated note in a complex symphony of technological warfare. The Orion Collective's communication networks were the first to fall. It wasn't a violent destruction, more like a gradual suffocation. Quantum encrypted disruption algorithms slipped through their defensive systems like water through a cracked dam. One moment, their vast communication grid was operational. The next, it was nothing more than a collection of useless circuits. On Europa, mining station director Jinho Park activated the first wave of defensive protocols. Automated systems came online, transforming the colonial outpost into a fortress of human innovation. Adaptive AI systems began predicting and neutralizing potential alien interference before it could even be conceived. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research team on Mars had been preparing for this moment for years. Their quantum communication breakthrough allowed human networks to remain invisible to alien detection. Information flowed like a ghost through space, undetectable, unstoppable. The Orion Collective's first indication that something was wrong came when their strategic command centers went dark. Entire communication sectors simply ceased to exist. No alarms. No warnings. Just absolute silence. Sung watched the initial reports come in. Each data point confirmed what humanity had long suspected: the aliens were not prepared for human ingenuity. Their technological superiority was an illusion, built on decades of unchallenged dominance. Adaptive drone swarms began their silent work. They weren't destroying alien infrastructure, they were dismantling it with surgical precision. Communication relays, defense platforms, strategic command centers all fell without a single explosive shot being fired. Yuna's voice was calm as she reported to the Global Defense Council. Stage 1 complete. Total network disruption achieved with 0 human casualties. The global defense teams had spent decades preparing for this moment. Every possible scenario had been wargamed, every potential alien strategy anticipated and countered. What the Orion Collective saw as a simple economic provocation, humanity saw as an opportunity to demonstrate its true potential. On Earth, research facilities that had appeared to be simple scientific outposts revealed their true nature. Advanced technological systems came online, their capabilities far beyond anything the aliens could comprehend. Quantum computing networks that could process entire strategic scenarios in microseconds. Adaptive AI systems that could predict and neutralize threats before they could be conceived. The Orion Collective's leadership began to realize something was terribly wrong. Their once invincible technological infrastructure was crumbling like wet paper. Communication channels went silent. Strategic systems failed. Jinho Park watched from his Europa station as alien defense platforms simply went dark. No explosions. No dramatic destruction. Just a systematic, complete shutdown. Dr. Rodriguez's team on Mars began analyzing the collected data. Each byte of information confirmed their most radical predictions about human technological potential. Sung turned to Yuna, a slight smile crossing his face. "They thought we were weak," he said quietly. Yuna nodded. They were wrong. The counteraction continued. Silent. Precise. Absolutely devastating. Humanity had not just defended itself. It had demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that would reshape galactic understanding forever. The Orion Collective was about to learn a painful lesson. Never underestimate a species born of survival, innovation, and relentless adaptation. The real war was just beginning. The breaking point arrived with a silence more terrifying than any explosion. Zealer, the once proud Orion diplomatic leader, watched in complete disbelief as human technological systems dismantled everything his civilization had built. Mobile defense platforms materialized from seemingly empty space. Quantum encrypted networks transformed human colonial outposts into impenetrable fortresses. The Orion Collect. Tide's strategic command began experiencing total systemic collapse. Sung Kim stood in the central command center, his movements calm and calculated. Yuna Park worked beside him, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to predict alien movements before they could even be conceived. On Europa, mining station director Jinho Park activated the next phase of human defensive protocols. Adaptive AI systems began tracking and neutralizing Orion's strategic movements with mathematical precision. What seemed like random defensive actions were actually part of a carefully orchestrated plan, decades in preparation. The aliens' first mistake had been assuming human technology was primitive. Their second mistake was believing humans would negotiate. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research team on Mars had developed technologies that redefined the very concept of warfare. Nanotechnological swarms could disrupt entire communication networks in microseconds. Quantum communication systems made human strategic movements essentially invisible. Zealer's communication attempts became increasingly desperate. Each transmission revealed more about the Orion Collective's weakness. Their centralized command structure, once considered their greatest strength, now became their most significant vulnerability. We cannot. Zealer's transmission fragmented, comprehend. Sung watched the alien leadership's communication collapse with a cold, calculated observation. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was systematically dismantling an entire civilization's technological infrastructure. The mobile defense platforms became something more than simple defensive systems. They were living proof of human technological innovation. Each platform could adapt, learn, and counter alien strategies faster than biological intelligence could process. UNA's monitoring systems showed the complete breakdown of Orion's strategic capabilities. Their communication networks were now nothing more than isolated, ineffective circuits. Defense platforms went dark. Strategic command centers became silent tombs of technological failure. On Earth, global defense teams had been preparing for this moment for generations. Every potential alien scenario had been studied, wargamed, analyzed. What the Orion Collective saw as a simple provocation, humanity saw as an opportunity to demonstrate its true potential. Jinho Park watched alien defense systems collapse like fragile glass structures. No dramatic explosions. No complex battle sequences. Just a systematic, complete shutdown of everything the Orion Collective believed made them powerful. The breaking point wasn't a moment of violence. It was a moment of complete technological obsolescence. Dr. Rodriguez's team began collecting data that would reshape galactic understanding forever. Each byte of information confirmed humanity's most radical predictions about technological potential and adaptive capabilities. Sung turned to Yuna, his expression revealing nothing of the massive strategic victory unfolding around them. They thought we were weak, he said quietly. Yuna's response was equally measured. They were wrong. The Orion Collective's leadership began sending increasingly fragmented communication attempts. Panic replaced their previous condescension. They were experiencing something they had never considered possible: complete technological defeat. Zealer's final transmission was a broken whisper. How possible? Humanity had not just defended itself. It had demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that would become legendary across the galaxy. Every colonial outpost, every research station, every seemingly simple human installation had been a potential weapon. The real message was clear: humanity would not be controlled, would not be manipulated, would not be underestimated. As the last Orion communication systems went dark, a new era in galactic politics was born. Silently. Precisely. Absolutely. The breaking point had arrived. And humanity had shattered every expectation. The conference hall was different now. Where once the Orion Collective had spoken with arrogance, now only silence remained. Sung Kim stood at the center, his presence commanding more respect than any previous diplomatic encounter. Zealer, the once powerful alien diplomat, sat broken. His crystalline form seemed to have lost its previous shimmer, now dull and fractured. Around him, the remaining Orion representatives looked defeated, their technological superiority completely dismantled. Yuna Park stepped forward, her movements calculated and precise. The terms of surrender would be dictated entirely by humanity. Your technological infrastructure is now obsolete, she stated simply. No anger. No celebration. Just a matter-of-fact assessment that sent chills through the alien delegation. The galactic communication networks, once controlled by the Orion Collective, now displayed human insignia. Every strategic point, every communication channel, every potential technological pathway was now under human control. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research teams were already analyzing the captured alien technologies. What the Orion Collective had considered their most advanced systems were now nothing more than educational artifacts for human scientists. On Earth, celebration was subdued. This wasn't about victory. This was about survival. About sending a clear message to the galaxy: humanity would not be controlled. Jean-Ho Park, the mining station director from Europa, transmitted the final diplomatic communiqué. Each word was chosen with surgical precision. The terms were clear. Absolute. Non-negotiable. The Orion Collective would be required to completely dismantle their existing military infrastructure, provide full technological disclosure, accept human oversight in all future galactic interactions, pay substantial reparations to human colonial settlements. Zeeler attempted to speak. His transmission was immediately cut. Sung watched the proceedings with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. Years of preparation, decades of strategic planning, had culminated in this moment. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had redefined the entire concept of galactic diplomacy. The research stations on Mars were already beginning to integrate captured alien technologies. What seemed like a conflict was now becoming the greatest technological learning opportunity in human history. Global defense teams began analyzing every single piece of data. Each fragment of information was a potential breakthrough, a potential leap in human technological understanding. Yuna's final statement to the defeated Orion representatives was simple: "You mistook our patience for weakness. You will not make that mistake again." The message was clear. Humanity was not just another species to be conquered or controlled. They were a force that would reshape galactic understanding. Quantum communication networks began transmitting the news. Not as a declaration of war, but as a simple statement of fact. The galaxy would now understand what humanity was truly capable of. On Earth, people returned to their daily lives. No massive celebrations. No dramatic announcements. Just a quiet understanding that everything had changed. Sung looked at Yuna. No words were necessary. Their mission was complete. The Orion Collective had learned a lesson that would be remembered for generations. Never underestimate a species born of survival, innovation, and relentless adaptation. As the last transmission ended, a new era in galactic politics began. Silently. Precisely. Absolutely. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same.